Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hangry Mexican. Thank you for listening. In today's episode, I sit down with New Life Church's youth pastor, Fernando Morales, and his lovely wife, Faith Morales, who is the worship group director at the church. And she sings amazing. I think she's probably one of the secret weapons of New Life Church, which I guess has been around for 90 plus years now. So it's amazing that I had a chance to just sit down with them. They're a young couple. They have, of course, 2 kids, and I think that they are wiser beyond their years. So I really hope that you enjoy this podcast. And, even if you don't go to church, or if you do, I think you'll find something very good to take away from today's episode. So here you go, enjoy, and DJ, roll that music.
Okay, so when I was in college,
Yes.
we used to go, which so interesting because when you're in college, you don't have money, but someone found out that a certain time of the day the prices would go like half off because it's kind of like it's not as busy, whatever. So we would skip school to go eat at a Brazilian steakhouse because it's like that's the place to go. And so to give it perspective, I think normally it would cost all you can eat like in the evening, like normal dinner time. I think it was anywhere from like, I want to say $45 to $50 a person. But when we went, it was like $13. So it was like $13 all you can. So you can imagine we're there. So we'd show up. But this is the thing. We would stay there until it became dinner. Like we would just hang out there. They would kick us out.
Whoa.
Because you're like, okay, the price has changed. You need to leave because this is when all the nice. Anyway, so it's all you can eat steak. So there's like a full salad bar. And they bring out pieces or cuts of meat, any kinds of like spicy meats and like sausages and you name it. And they have them in these long skewered looking things. And it's just amazing.
All right. Well, I think one of these days I'm going to try the Brazilian bar. Well, once that place opens
once that
up,
place goes out, you're definitely going to go broke.
And it sounds like you have to go in hungry.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
empty stomach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or prepare yourself.
All right, to all of our listeners out there, this is an exciting episode. We have a 4-person setup here. We have Pastor Fernando Morales, which I think that gives away the type of guest that I have today. So I'm really excited about that, and his lovely wife, Faith Morales. And Faith, what is your official title at the church?
I am the, worship director.
Oh. Yeah, that's
Director.
I know. Anytime you get the title director in there, it probably means like a boost in pay.
Pastor Doe, if you're listening to this.
And then, of course, my wife Claire also is joining us here in this podcast today. So I'm really excited about this conversation because both Pastor Fernando and Faith go to New Life Church, which is in Santa Barbara. It's been around for 90 plus years now, I think.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And at some point, I think we're going to turn the AC on too. It's starting to get a little
and
hot.
we also have Zeal and Ivy here today, too.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
2.5-year-old and 3-month-old.
And little Sandy, the Cocker Spaniel.
So
Yeah.
this is
Everybody.
a full podcast
It's a
house.
full
I know.
family podcast.
Full house. But we were talking a little bit about the Brazilian barbecue because there's a place near our little studio here that is opening up soon. So I'm excited to try that out.
You'll love it.
Yeah. But what other types of restaurants were there available? Because you come from New Mexico, is it?
So I was born in New Mexico, and I lived in Colorado for a little bit. And then where our story began was in Dallas, Texas. And so, I grew up with family in Texas, so back and forth. But really, where we used to live and where we met was in Dallas, Texas. So anything stereotypical of Texas that you can imagine, it was probably there in Dallas.
Like what?
Like steakhouses, or like everything is bigger
yeah.
in Texas, and barbecue places and things like that.
Oh,
Big
man.
trucks.
So you two met in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
And then, Faith, you were. Are you from Dallas?
No, I grew up the first half of. Sorry, I'm not in my microphone. I was born in Indiana. My family moved to Alaska when I was like a couple months old. I lived there till I was almost 9. Then we moved to South Carolina, which is where my dad's side of the family lives. And we lived there. I mean, my whole family still lives there. I'm the only one. I have 4 siblings. I'm the only one who moved. So I went to, me and 3 of my siblings moved to Dallas to go to school at the same time.
Wait, so from Alaska to Dallas, Texas?
Alaska to South Carolina.
Oh,
and
man.
then from South Carolina, when I was 19, I moved to Dallas.
I think I would say it's a culture shock, but that probably would be an understatement at this point.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Oh, man, imagine.
I mean, we were young, so I was turning 9 when we moved, or about to turn 9. So we were pretty adaptable. But I do remember feeling like I was dying in the summer, when the year that we had moved back. And I guess because our blood was so thick, we were just used to living in the cold. It was an adjustment. But now I just consider myself from the South because, from 9 to 19, I lived there for 10 years.
Wow.
And then my whole family's there. So we just say from the South.
Oh, man. Have you gone to visit her hometown in Alaska?
I have. Oh, no, never to Alaska, which I want to go to Alaska. It just sounds so much fun.
Yeah, that's on the bucket list.
But I've been to South Carolina many times. And I also say, although I grew up in New Mexico and Texas, I always say that I'm kind of close to the South, too. I'm kind of like, not Faith South, but my South.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I assume because of the places where you grew up and that you have this culinary experience from there. I mean, there's nothing better, more comforting, I'd say, than Southern food, Texas food.
Yeah. Tex-Mex. That's
Yes.
another thing. Tex-Mex. So it's this infusion, right? Of Mexican and American, or Texas. Actually,
Texas
Texas
has its own culture.
It's its own, like Tex-Mex is its own thing. It's not Mexican food. If there's anybody listening to this, and it's not nowhere close to Mexican food, but it's its own thing, and people love it.
Is there like... I don't know what that was.
Vibrating.
Yeah, well, that's how good these microphones are, I guess.
Wow. Yeah.
But no, so then, was there a typical dish that you grew up in? Whether it's like from Alaska, because I don't know. I mean, I've seen these shows out of Alaska, but I don't even know if that's real. Have you seen Life Below Zero, for example?
No, I've heard about it.
Yeah.
I think one of them was set in Norvik, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's one of the places that I lived.
Whoa.
Yeah. So we lived in Norvik, Kotzebue, and Fairbanks. So Fairbanks was the only place that was really like city. Like you had a mall, you had normal places. When we lived in, I believe it was Norvik. Maybe we lived in Kotzebue first. One of those two. It's what they consider the bush of Alaska. So you can only get there by a bush plane, which is just a little private plane, or you can do a snow machine on ice, like on the water if it's in the middle of the winter, or by boat if it's not in the middle of the winter. So it's like a tiny place. So yeah.
Wow. So what did you grow up eating in Alaska?
Okay. So there you you go hunting for your meat and salmon or caribou. We grew up mainly on caribou. So my dad would go out, shoot a caribou, which is super easy to get. There's so many there. And then you would skin it and all of that. Like I said, I was younger. I wasn't allowed to go hunting with him, but I just know from pictures and stories, and I do remember eating the meat. So you would just take it to a butcher and they would cut it all up for you. And if we could afford it, because we were missionaries, we would get jerky, like caribou jerky, or smoked salmon, which is like salmon jerky, and it's delicious. Those are some things that I miss so much. My mom would make. My mom says that she got so sick of it. I don't remember it, but she would make caribou pizza, caribou stew, caribou burgers, like
caribou
anything.
cereal,
like everything. So Those are some Alaskan things. And they eat salmon. They eat it raw. They don't waste any part of the fish. They don't,
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, man. Fernando, do you think you can cut it out if you were to visit Alaska?
Man, I don't know. She did mention of, I don't know what the proper name was, but it was kind of like gum, but it's like blubber fat.
Oh, yeah, whale blubber.
Oh,
They would chew it.
They would chew it like gum.
wow.
Those are like natives. No one probably younger people don't do that. But they do have this thing called Eskimo. We call it Eskimo ice cream. It's like lard with fish guts on it.
What?
I think they eat
Oh.
it to keep themselves warm. I think that's
That's a lot.
that's
of,
where
like,
it came from.
Fat content. in
So,
it,
if my mom made it, she would make it with, it's literally lard and like blueberries and sugar. It's like straight fat.
that is the craziest thing.
Wow.
But yeah,
Oh.
there's
So you wanna
lots of
visit?
there's lots of weird things. Those are for the natives.
Look at Claire's face. As she's looking at my expression, I probably have more of a facial expression than that is crazy to me.
Yeah.
With blueberries,
Yeah.
lard and blueberries.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah. Well, when I was growing up, my mom would use a lot of lard. I mean, of course, now
Right,
she's
yeah.
you know
My
eventually
mom
she
too.
changed. Yeah.
My mom too.
It made everything taste so much better. But sugar, I don't know. I mean,
Lard and sugar.
I don't even remember. I don't remember what it tastes like.
oh
crazy.
man. And then what about you? Was there like a crazy dish that you grew up with that
Man,
when you told other people about it, they're looking at you like you're crazy?
Man, I'm gonna have to make something up after that one. No, actually, no. I mean, my family, my mom. Well, on my dad's side, they're from Veracruz, Mexico. So it's like a coastal. So a lot of like seafood. So for me, growing up, to me, seafood stuff was kind of like I didn't really like it, but my family made it all the time. My grandma, my uncles, my aunts, and so anything from like octopus to like anything seafood. Actually, you know what? There is one thing they didn't eat it here because it's illegal. But my grandparents and my uncles grew up eating iguana.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was part of like their dish, and they didn't do it for long. I think when they lived in Veracruz, and then when they moved up north to like Chihuahua, and then finally in the U.S., obviously they didn't eat that here. But they would tell me stories of them eating iguana or that being a part of their dish.
You're forgetting about Allsup's
Oh,
chimichanga.
okay, so that's like on my dad's side. So in New Mexico, if you want to talk about like something like local, it would be these things called chimichangas. But it's not like your typical chimichanga. Like when you hear of a chimichanga, it's kind of like you get a certain picture or like a fried burrito. But where I'm from, there's these convenience or gas stations called Allsups, and they sell these fried items, and one of them is called chimmies. They call them chimmies, short for chimichangas. And it's like pork and chili. In New Mexico, everything's like green chili. So it has green chili and pork and cheese, and it's like a local little thing. But I definitely am
They're so
addicted to
good.
those. They're so good.
Oh wow. So did you try iguana before?
Never.
Oh,
Never.
Would you?
I think I would. Yeah. Yeah. I think I would.
That's great. One time I remember I was visiting with a friend of mine, and his family made chicken soup, but it came with the chicken feet.
No.
Yeah. So I couldn't. I mean, I remember I took the feet out, but even then, just knowing that the feet had been in there, I just didn't feel like eating at that point. Like my hunger just kind of went
That's
away.
crazy.
So do they like eat
Yeah,
the
yeah.
actual
Well,
feet?
Yeah.
I don't remember because this.
Just
I
for
think
flavor.
I think I was super young, and I don't remember. But then just recently, Claire got into this 90-day fiance show
On
on
TLC.
TLC,
Oh, yeah, I've seen it.
and there was an interracial couple that the guy I think was from the Dominican Republic, and they went to go visit his his mom because they didn't show his dad for some reason there, but they served the American family the chicken feet, and they
Like
just,
in a stew or just
just like a little appetizer,
Oh,
like
okay.
almost like chips, just it was the chicken feet. Yeah, and so he well, the American family, of course, didn't eat it, and they told him. They told the
what
guy.
a shame.
Yeah, I know. They told the guy, well, you eat it first, they probably thought it was poison or something.
Right.
And so he just started nibbling. So that's the only time where I've seen actual people nibble and eat the feet like almost like wings, really.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that was nuts.
No.
But then when you two met, it was in Dallas, Texas, and was it for school?
Yes.
Yeah, so she moved from South Carolina to Texas to go to this small Bible college out there called Christ for the Nations Institute. And so I moved out there the year before.
Yeah.
Or a semester,
a
semester before, and straight from Denver, Colorado to Dallas. And so I started a semester before her, and I actually met her at work. I didn't meet her at school. I didn't even know she went to the same school as I did.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I met her at work. One day she just came in. I actually worked with her sister before I met her, and we shared, there was cubicles. It was like a call center kind of a place, and I would always bug her sister, and we were friends. And I remember seeing this girl walk in with a manager, and the manager's kind of showing her around, and this pretty girl in this dress, and I'm like, "Who's that?" And Priscilla, her sister, she's like, "Don't even think about it."
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "That's my sister." I'm like, "Oh, nice." And I was like, "Definitely." I definitely want to get to know your sister. And then she's like, she's like, "Don't even think about it." And she goes, which I think sparked the whole thing. And shout out to Priscilla if you're listening to this. She goes, "She would never go for a guy like you."
Whoa.
Challenge accepted.
Oh, man.
And guess what, Priscilla? I won.
Did she ever say why she was?
Well, at that time I was a little bit of a flirt, and so she definitely knew my kind, and I was just I wasn't the best guy for sure, and so but yeah, so that's why she said that. She's like, she would never go. I'm like, all right, we'll see. And fate said it was love at first sight. So
okay.
Oh,
What?
okay.
So what?
No,
what
I didn't.
so then what happened? Like who asked who out, and how did that conversation go? And especially with the sister,
right? Yeah. Well, it took a little bit. I don't remember exactly how much longer.
We started emailing.
Here, and we can put the microphone a little closer to you, actually. That way it's a little bit more comfortable too. There you go.
Awesome. That's better.
Yep.
So we started emailing at work, through our work emails. And then he started giving me rides to work because we both lived on campus. And it was about a 30-minute drive to our work. And so he started giving me rides. So we just, became really good friends. And then you asked me out. You asked me to go.
Yeah, I think I asked her on a day off.
Yes, you had the day off because you had a dentist appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was already my day off. And so, sorry about my baby.
No, it's totally fine.
And so I was like, he was like, yeah, I have to, he's like, I have a dentist appointment. And I was like,
I like how you
okay.
move your head when you said this. Was I that smooth? Or I hope I didn't talk like that.
So I was like, oh, okay. Well, okay. And he was like, well, what are you doing later? I'm like, this is my day off, so I'm not doing anything. And he was like, okay. Do you want to go get something to eat later? And I was like, yes. And I did tell a friend, after I'd met him or hung out with him the first time, I would totally marry him. And I'd never said that about.
Oh, wow.
Well, maybe I said that about another guy.
Oh, no.
Let's just say that you said it.
That's the first time I ever said that.
There we go.
Yeah, so I did say I
Yeah.
would totally marry him.
And we just started, after that, we just kind of started, talking more and going out more. And I think, that was kind of our initial, oh, okay.
I love the story. I think Claire and I kind of met. We met over food too. I think that was the day that we sort of went out. I guess the first date because
Nice.
My friend who was also my colleague and my best man at the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
He follows NASCAR like nobody has ever. So he knows everything about NASCAR. And then he told me, there's this driver that the Outback Steakhouse is sponsoring, and if he comes in the top 10 after every Sunday race,
Mm-hmm.
if he's in the top 10, you get a free blooming onion at Outback Steakhouse. So that was the pretext, of course. So the guy that the racer that weekend did win the race. So then the Monday, I asked Claire, hey, a group of us are getting together for this blooming onion thing. It's free. You want to come hang out? And so she said yes. And then when she shows up, there's only me there. Nobody else is around.
Nice. Now, so you guys worked together already before that. So you guys
Yes.
kind of worked there. Okay. So that's how you guys connected.
So we met at the workplace. Yeah.
Nice.
Which
That's
I
cool.
guess, yeah, it's a little bit similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people meet at the workplace.
Right.
So you're
Yeah.
there most
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah.
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 So Claire, you show up and it's only Oscar. What'd you think?
Just thought, well, I guess no one else was able to come, so
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
I'll go just hang out with this guy.
Wow. Now it comes out. Now the truth comes
I
out.
guess.
But I mean, I was so happy to, because even before that, I always found myself going into the Edit Bay area where Oscar worked, and it's like just because he needed help to see something again on how to do something, so I'd always go back there and show him how
I
to
think
do
he was
whatever.
doing it on purpose. Claire, can you go over that again? I just don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. How do you control the mouse?
Yeah.
But so at this time, after you two met, and then you started going out, especially after the first date. Now, were you two involved in church, or did that come after?
For me, I didn't grow up like. There's no other ministers in my family. Later on, some did, but I didn't grow up with even thinking that I would work at a church ever. I actually wanted to be a couple of things. I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to be a cop. Anything but working at a church. But at that time, I was just starting off, like figuring out, okay, like, all right, God, like, what do you want me to do? And I didn't know that eventually I would end up in ministry or working at a church. But I just knew that that's what I was supposed to do, be at this Bible college. And I don't know. I just kind of felt like, all right, something has to come out of this. And so that's how it all started.
Okay. And just so everybody knows, Claire just walked out for a moment. Oh, Sandy is getting crazy. Sandy, come over here.
She's like licking baby Ivy's feet and sniffing and checking her.
All right, let's pull Sandy back a little bit. Sandy, come here. All right, yeah. So
Nice.
Claire,
Is Zeal out there?
That's the unexpectedness of the podcast. Yeah. But Sandy's kind of.
She wants to tell us about her love life too.
But no. So Claire
Sandy's a boy.
Yeah.
Did I say? Oh my goodness! Sorry, Sandy.
Good. But no, Claire just walked out. We have a sweet dessert coming up. She's making one of these recipes. It's a apple pie on a crock pot or in a crock pot.
Good.
Yeah. So that's gonna be. She's checking up on that. So hopefully she'll bring us a slice over here when she's
That's
ready.
what we do here at the Hangry Podcast, right?
The Hangry Mexican.
Hangry Mexican.
But okay, so let's just talk a little bit about how you found Jesus.
Yeah.
Because I think both of you actually, you have a story on the road that take you to finding Jesus, and I know a lot of people out there that might be listening to this might be wondering how they can find Jesus as well. So whoever wants to start, just take it away, and I just really want to know that story.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up in the church. My dad was missionary. When we were done being missionaries, when we moved to South Carolina, my parents were pastors. So I grew up in the church. My grandparents both in ministry on both sides, and so yeah, that was something that I always grew up around. I asked Jesus to be my savior when I was it was if I can remember, I think I was 6 or 7. And at that point there's no major like life change, when you like grow up in the church, you're just a kid. It's not like I did anything horrible. I'm just a little kid. But I always say that I really made my salvation my own when I was around 16. My parents were no longer pastors or like pastoring a church. So we were attending this mega church in South Carolina, and it was really a time when me and my siblings got to experience ministry for ourselves. And so we were serving in our youth group. We had like 500 teenagers went to this youth group. It was huge. And it's like we were homeschooled. So, you know, because we missionaries kind of goes hand in hand. We traveled a lot. We moved a lot. And so we were homeschooled almost the whole time. And so I remember going to this church and getting to experience ministry for ourselves, getting to be a part of the worship team, and getting filled with the Spirit. And I was experiencing all these things. And I remember just my eyes being opened and coming to life. And I remember this one moment, we had gone to this conference. It was called The Ramp. And it was just an open room in Alabama, like this just big open room. And there was no seats anywhere in this place. It was just a standing room. And there was like 1,000 kids shoved into this like room. This is what they did. And they would put on like dances. They had worship. They had like awesome speakers and all this stuff. It was like weekend conferences they did. And the worship was crazy. Like people would dance for hours and hours and hours and hours. And there's no seats in there. There's no chairs. So it's just open dancing room.
Wow.
I mean, except it's like a mosh pit because it's so many people. Anyway, but I remember being so on fire for the Lord in that moment. And there was this one song that we were singing by Misty Edwards, and the lyrics are, I'll say goodbye to my father, my mother. I'll turn my back on every other lover, and I'll press on. And I remember in that moment, like intentionally trying to remember that moment, because I was like, God, I will do anything for you. Like this is real for me right now. Like I give you everything. I'll do whatever you ask me to do for the rest of my life. And that was like a marker in my life for following the Lord, because it's really when my salvation became my own. And apart from my family, apart from my parents, it's like, I don't care what my parents or family ever choose to do, whether they ever turn their back on you. Like for me, I will never, ever turn away from you. And so that was like a marker in my life. And I guess 3 years later, I moved to Dallas because I felt like the Lord had told me to go to school to pursue being a worship leader. That's what I did. I met my husband there. And then here we are in California doing ministry together.
Yeah, working together.
Yeah.
Wow. And then what about you, Fernando? How did you find Jesus?
Yeah, so the way that I like to describe it to people, whether you're in church or outside of church, is I grew up in church, but not in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is, you know, I went to, we got the apple.
Oh,
Is it apple pie?
Claire's bringing the apple pie with
are a
vanilla
goddess.
ice cream.
I think I got saved the moment I ate this apple pie.
Wow.
Yeah, it looks really good and smells delicious. Too.
Oh, I can't
Thank you, Claire.
wait. Wow. Oh, and it's warm and everything.
Yeah, I know. I grabbed it. I was like, oh my goodness.
Oof.
Good stuff.
I think I'm going to let it cool off a little bit. Oh, Sandy.
I got it.
Oh, Sandy's getting twisted around.
I got him.
But at least we got Claire back here.
Yeah. Thank you,
Wait.
Claire.
Yeah. And then oh, you know what?
enjoy
Maybe
your
right
pie.
there. Maybe right there. There. We have a little table here in the podcast in the Hangry Mexican studios.
Which, by the way, you gotta subscribe to this and listen to this. Yeah. So the way that I describe it is quite simple. Like I grew up in church, but not in Christ. You know, I did the church thing. My family went, you know, all the time. I mean, my mom helped clean the church, and she was part of the choir, Sunday school teacher. So you name it. As any Mexican family, I guess my mom's like, you have no choice. You're going to church. And so I just went. I went with it, me and my sisters. And a lot changed when I was about 11 years old. My parents got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of started like looking at the church in a different way, especially God. I was like, oh, I don't know about this. Like my parents are divorced. That shouldn't happen. Like if you follow God, doesn't God take care of us? You know, I was 11 years old. I just had no way of viewing anything other than through my emotions and through circumstance. And so for many years, I kind of just walked away from anything to do with church. I would go every once in a while with my mom. And, you know, the teenage years for me were tough. Were kind of rough, especially with my dad not around really. So for a long time, I kind of ran away from that. I hated anything to do with like religion, God. It left a bad taste in my mouth, right? Just like and all that changed when I was about, I would say, I had just turned 18. I had graduated from high school, and I had moved up to Denver to go live with my dad, to kind of connect with him again and kind of like see if I can build a relationship with him. We had a somewhat good relationship. He was just distant. He wasn't around. And so one summer, my sister came visiting, and she said, "Hey, would you take me to church this Sunday?" And it had been a long time since I'd gone to church. And so I'm like, "Well, I'll take you because you're my sister." And plus, you never say no to a Latina mad sister. So I took her to church, and she said, "Are you going to leave me here?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're good people. They're church people. You're going to be fine." She's like, "You better not leave me here." I'm like,
Oh, wow.
"Okay." So she's like, "You got to come in." But I think it was her way of saying, "Come inside." So it was a little like bodonk, like little church. Like, I know Faith was saying earlier, like a make church. For this church that I was visiting, it was like literally like 25 people. It was like just small, hole-in-the-wall kind of place. And I stayed. I for some reason, I just felt like maybe I should come. And my sister kind of made a way for that to happen. And so she was only visiting for the summer, so she went back home. And I just stayed, I kept consistently going. And I just, for some reason, I just felt maybe I should be here. Maybe I need to come back. And also, it didn't help that I know how to play the drums. And it's a small church, so they're like, "Can you help us with the drums?" And I'm like, "Sure." So I started I started playing the drums and all that. So fast forward to about a year in, or a year and a half in, there's this like conference going on where there's like a group of people from Dallas, Texas that are going up, and they're going to have like a night of worship, and they're going to have a speaker out there and drama team. It's like a youth thing. But at that time, I felt kind of old, right? At this time, I'm like 19 now, and I'm like, that's like a teenage kind of a thing. I don't know if I want to go. Well, the guy that was putting all this together, he's like, you should come. And I'm like, well, I don't know. So around that time, I was going through a hard time in my life. I had just broken up with a girlfriend. I was having just issues with my father, and I was really depressed. I was in a really, really just bad place in my life. That night, I just remember I was going downtown. I was going to go with some friends. We were going to party it up, literally to a place called The Church in Denver, Colorado. If you're from Denver, you're familiar with this place. It's literally a club downtown called The Church, right? So I was going to go to the church. But just God grabbed a hold of me. As I was driving, I just felt this, overwhelming presence that I knew that I needed to turn my life around. And so I remember I pulled over and I was crying. I felt like, man, I need help. And so I called this guy, and I'm like, his name's Rafa. Shout out to Rafa. And I'm like, "Rafa, I can't do this, man. I need help." And he goes, "Hey, why don't you just come over here? I told you, it's tonight." Oscar, it was down the street from where I had pulled over. Wow. So it was all divine. I mean, it was all set up, right?
Oh, wow.
And so, so I got there, and really what happened that night was just a miracle, man. I went back into a building, to this church setting, and I felt so out of place. I just felt so out of place. But as soon as I stepped in, I felt like the Lord was just kind of setting it up for me. And by the end of the night, the preacher guy is like, his name's Hugo Martinez, the preacher guy. That's how I viewed him, right? The preacher guy. And he starts preaching, and at the end of it, he goes, if you've been running away from the Lord, now's your time. You need to stop running. And it's like the room just went silent, and he was talking straight at me. And so I remember that night I just stood up in the back and I ran to the front. I ran, and which wasn't normal for me. I've been gone away from church for a long time. It was not normal. I ran to the front, and I remember I did something I had never done. I just put my hands up in the air, and I just felt like this overwhelming, again, presence just fall over me, which now I understand was the Holy Spirit just falling on me. And that was the night that Faith was saying, I mentally made a note. I will never forget this night, the night that I surrendered my life to Christ. And I made a public declaration. I said, Lord, I would like for you to forgive me that I've been running away from you. And I want to accept you as my Lord and Savior. And I did it just like that. Because guess what? I'd grown up in church. So I knew I had the tools. I had never used them. Mm-hmm. And so I just said it. I remember I put my hands up. I was crying the whole night. I was, again, abnormal. I did not cry in front of people. That's not what you do. But I did. I was just, my heart, I felt I had turned from stone to like a heart of flesh. So like everything, I was emotional that night. I was like, ah. But it was a beautiful moment for me. That was the night that I mentally noted. In 2007, I gave my life to Christ.
Wow. And then by the time that you two are married, now are you two fully involved in the church? And also, how is it that you ended up in Santa Barbara, out of all places?
Mm-hmm. So, a couple years in, I guess, after that, that's when we both moved, right? Her story and my story, we moved to Dallas. So a couple years into the school, we just started, volunteering for some extracurricular stuff that the school would do. They would do like outreaches and things like that. In fact, that outreach that they had done in Denver was a part of that school. So that's how I got connected to that school. Because I asked, like, hey, where are you guys from? Oh, we're from Dallas, Texas. Oh, like, from where? Like, and they said, CF and I want to go there. I just had this supernatural experience. I want to go where you guys are from. So we both immediately started working with youth. I started working with youth. She started working with youth as the worship. She was on a worship team for this traveling youth conference camp thing.
Youth for the Nations.
It's called Youth for the Nations. It's probably, if not the largest or second largest spirit-filled camp. I mean, I'm talking about 5,000 kids come to this camp every summer. It's like about 1,000 a week. And so it was pretty massive. I mean, it was a big thing. And so that's where we both started working. And eventually, again, I don't know how doors opened up, and I became the assistant director of that program. And again, pretty cool story. I got saved through this program, and then I became the assistant director of that program, and it was pretty cool. And Faith was traveling also with this program, and she was doing worship with them, and that's how we started working with youth.
Mm-hmm. And then he, his third year of school, which is the last year, it's just a 3-year school. He was studying to be a youth pastor, so he had an internship at a church, and he just kept working with them even after he graduated. So I just joined and started helping him. And the first year of marriage was crazy. We were so busy.
Oh my gosh, we were young and everything. I mean, obviously in marriage and in ministry, we were doing what they normally don't advise. We were working together in ministry and traveling. It was just crazy. Our first year was probably our toughest year, just marriage wise. It was tough. It was tough just because we were all over the place and we weren't taking time for ourselves, and it was crazy.
So how did you end up making it work, or at least making the relationship better?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question.
Well, soon after we were done working for Youth for the Nations, we didn't know what our next assignment was. And so we were just kind of in this waiting. I was a nanny, part-time nanny, and he just fell back on photography.
A full-blown wedding event.
Yeah. So we were just praying and just asking the Lord to open doors wherever he wanted us. We were open to wherever. And I had actually said, just randomly, I was like, what if we moved to California? We have nothing in California. There is no reason for us to go to California.
Now I have family here, but before nobody.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have an aunt and uncle in
Now
LA
I have an aunt and uncle here, but before that, nothing.
Yeah, and I hadn't been since I was 2. I went once when I was 2. He went once when you were young. So I just randomly, it just popped in my head, and I was like, what if we moved to California? And he was like dead set against it. He's very deliberative, so it takes him a long time to accept change. And so he was like, no. He's like, I would never move to California unless we had a specific assignment, and God was so clear and told us. I was like, okay. End of conversation.
What a good wife.
Like a month later, we get a call from the director of Youth for the Nations that we used to work with. And because he had networked with pastors all across Texas and Oklahoma in that area, he called him and he's like, hey, Fernando, there's this opening in Santa Barbara, California they want a youth pastor who can also lead worship.
Yeah, youth pastor / worship.
Part-time. And So he's like, if you know anyone who would be interested, he's like, I randomly found out about this through a connection from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets off the phone and he tells me, and I'm like, don't you think that's crazy? That this is the first time we hear about an opening in California, and he calls you, and we just talked about this. And Fernando was like, no. He's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm like, I lead worship and you can be the youth pastor.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's like, well, it's just a part-time position, you know.
Because I'm thinking, isn't California expensive? Like, how am I going to live on a part-time?
Well, especially Santa Barbara.
So we didn't
even know.
We didn't know what Santa Barbara was.
We didn't even know Santa Barbara. We had never even heard
we didn't know
of
where it was. So we look it up.
We Googled
I'm
it.
like,
and then that's when I was like,
yes,
that's where I need to go.
No, you weren't. I was like that. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, this is too good to be true.
Yeah.
So we looked real quick, and then
I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of weirded out because I'm like, oh dang, didn't we just talk about this?
Yeah. So he doesn't do anything about it, and I'm like, they're looking for a youth pastor mainly, so I'm not
for a whole month, right?
Yeah. So we let over a month pass by.
Oh wow.
Yeah. From
and
the call.
I'm like, Fernando, can you please? You know, he doesn't want to do photography alone.
I love
like
photography,
ministry,
but I knew like, hey,
our heart.
I want to be in ministry.
And I was, nannying. We weren't doing anything. We were just attending a mega church. We were not involved. So it was kind of a weird place for us. So I'm like, please, 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 can you like talk to him? Like call the pastor or email him. Just email him. And I'm like, the position's probably taken because it's in Santa Barbara. Now we know where Santa Barbara is and how gorgeous it is. I'm like, it's probably taken. But just try. So he does. He emails Pastor Dale. You know, he just tells him briefly who he is. They set up a call, like interview, and they just totally hit it off. I mean, it's like they had known each other forever. They
bros the whole life.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like
I ended up just talking to him on the phone, like I knew him. You know,
and if you know Pastor Dale, like
he's
the nicest,
super
person
friendly
ever.
man.
So I was like, no way, like this is crazy. So we go look at their website, at the church website, and I'm like, it looks like such a good church. The pastor's awesome. Like, what is the catch? We were like,
yeah,
just
we were
looking
like, this is
for
too
what's
good.
wrong.
What's
So, we have like a couple Skype interviews with both of us, and we're just getting to know each other, and we're just feeling like this is crazy. Like this feels so natural. And Pastor Dale says, hey, we have a convention every year with our denomination, and it's in a different city every year. And this year it's in Dallas. And we were like...
The last time I was in Dallas was
Wow.
like the 80s or something like that, or just something crazy like that.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, we're literally like, we live 10 minutes from there where it was happening, Dallas Convention Center or something.
Yeah, it was like literally like super close to us.
So they're like, do you want to go? We're coming in 2 months or something. We're like, yes. And that's where we were going to meet for the first time. So they get us tickets there and we meet.
And we just hit it off.
It was like they were family. Like
it's like I knew him.
And so, yeah, so they had told us, hey, we want to fly you out in June. Because this time it was May. It was May when convention was. They're like, we want to fly you out in June so you can see Santa Barbara and get a feel for it.
See the church, And
we're like, okay, that's awesome. Like, we would love to do that, but we already know that this is it for us. Like
we knew. Like,
because they were like, you don't have to tell us yet, but we're like, no, we know.
We
like
knew.
this
and
is
we had
it.
talked to people. We're like, hey, we had talked to our parents, and we had some pastors and leaders in our life, and they're like, yeah, go
Do it.
do it.
So we fly out, and they show us that. They tell us
my
that they had
goodness. When we
like a
landed
parsonage.
here, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. So they show us the little house that they had for us. They let us pick out the paint colors. I mean, they just were the sweetest, most hospitable people ever. And then we moved out here at the end of August.
So during our visit, we sat down and we kind of talked about like, okay, so are you
details.
guys? And so we finally said yes, yeah, of course. And then they were so kind to us because it was a part-time job, and so they were offering us a what's called a parish or our house, our parsonage, and that's it, but just the way they received us was overwhelming. Like the kindest people, like the nicest people ever. Faith and I were like, this is what we need. We didn't know we needed this until we got here. We're like, oh my goodness.
It was just turned into a season of healing for us.
Yeah. Yeah,
just
from
being
a
in Santa
fast-paced
Barbara.
environment to like a home.
Yeah,
like
it's care for your soul.
So
Yeah.
that's how we got connected here.
Wow. And yeah, I mean, Claire and I spent, what would you say, like 2 years searching for a church? And then, well, maybe you could tell this story because it involves your mom and the conversation you had with her that led us to New Life Church in Santa Barbara. And we quickly realized that it was just so special. So, yeah, take it away, Claire. So how did that come about?
My mom attended a Foursquare church in New Hampshire where she lives and called Harvest Christian Fellowship. And then she just Googled Foursquare Church in Santa Barbara and up came New Life Church. Really simple. And she's like, Claire, this is not far from your house. You should go check it out. And so we did. And it was on the day we checked it out was the day they were taking the photo for the 90th anniversary. So we got to be in the photo. And we just felt so special to be there the first day.
I took that photo.
Yeah. So it was just a really fun experience. And I think a really big draw for the church is the size, the pastor, the worship leader, 100%, and then Fernando, for sure.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, not particularly in that order, but just all of the leadership, and you can just, like, what draws me into a church is the worship, because I love just belting it out and no one caring what I sound like. So I just really felt that was really amazing act of worship and just connecting with God that way. And just the size of the church reminded me of the church I grew up in. So I really felt at home with that. And I loved that my fiance, Oscar, felt comfortable there too.
Yeah, and it was so comfortable that I, one of the things, of course, to get married is
An officiant?
an officiant.
Oh, yeah.
And
Just a little bit important.
yeah, exactly. And so I remember I told Claire, hey, what do you think about just maybe approaching Pastor Dale and asking him to be the officiant? And she says, yes, let's do it. And so we asked, Pastor Dale to be our officiant, and he's just so awesome about it. And even on our wedding day, I know he was sick, but he took some medicine, and I mean, it was literally like an act of God. He showed up, he went through it, he spent a little bit of time with us at the reception, and it was I think he told us like after that he got home, he just completely like passed out. Knocked out. But that just goes to show you that New Life Church, I in my opinion, it's a very unique church, and it's because of the people that are there, of course, too. And that, I think, it came or was important when this natural disasters came during to Santa Barbara, the fire, and then of course the
mudslide.
And so the New Life Church played a really important role in that. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what the church did, and then what that experience was like for you two.
Yeah, definitely first for me. Being in California, if you're from California, you're familiar with earthquakes and fires, and where we're from, not so much. And so, caught in the middle of a city where a huge tragedy had just happened, earlier in the year with fires. And then we had a mudslide in our city, which was just devastating. Now, as a youth pastor in our city too, a lot of our students lost people. And so I'm connected with people through that as well. And it was definitely overwhelming. But the beauty of that, seeing the church kind of activate, and not just our church, not just New Life, like, just in general, the city coming together, all types of churches from different backgrounds and everything, just coming together, was such a neat thing to see. And our church definitely tried, we stepped out. We're a small church, like Claire was saying, but I love that even despite the size that we are, we can make a big impact. And our denomination sent in chaplains from other areas, from other cities. And a team of chaplains came free. It was a free counseling, resource for people who were having a hard time. And we sent them out to the damaged areas and people who had lost family members or lost property. they got to be ministered by these chaplains, these volunteers that just came in through our church, and even many people through our church just feeding people and housing. At one point, our church was ready to go to receive, like many places in town, to receive people who had lost homes. And I remember our youth room. I was excited setting up our youth room one night. We were setting up cots. We had gone out and bought cots because, like, where do you buy cots? Like, we were like, and we don't just have these around. So, but it was exciting to be the church and to go out there. And that's another thing that I do believe, and I agree with you, Oscar, is just the uniqueness of like the hospitality and the heart of the church. We're not a big church. We're not a perfect church. If you're listening to this and you've been hurt before by a church, and we get it. It's hard, and but don't give up. There's a place for you. There's a community for you, and New Life has been that for us, like a place of healing, a place of hope, and we just love it. We love the people there.
And then, what about you, Faith? How was that experience of dealing with the natural disasters that happened in Santa Barbara, and especially in a position that you were in, which, I mean, you're the leader of the worship team. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, I remember I never got like one-on-one time with any of the victims, but I remember being extra cautious of the songs that I was choosing, and really trying to be spirit-led in what I was choosing. And I know that worship and music is just like an avenue of healing for a lot of people. And so I know it did play a part in bringing peace and comfort to a lot of people who were affected. There were a lot of tears during that time. There were just lots of tears. But I think that's an awesome thing about worship, is it does bring healing. So that was really only my only part that I played in that. I think there was such an overwhelming response from the city, and not just our church, but churches around. They had all these churches and places with these cots, but there were so many. It was like, okay, well, we don't need them anymore because they had already filled, people already had places to stay like that. I mean, we could have probably housed hundreds across the city more, So I think there was just an overwhelming response of people. It was awesome to watch our community come together.
Yeah, definitely. I remember around that time, even you guys helping us out, especially with your career and you guys being a part of KUYT. I remember you guys helped putting out a shout out for volunteers, and I remember getting tons of calls. Pastor Fernando and I were having to unfortunately turn away people because certain things weren't needed anymore or whatever. Yeah. But just seeing that, like that feeling of like, man, we don't care where you're from. We don't care what church you're from, whatever. Like, we all want to help. Man, it was awesome to hear. I got chefs from town, like dishwashers. I remember this one gentleman, he left me a voicemail, and he said, hey, I'm a dishwasher at a so-and-so restaurant. I don't know how to cook, but he said, I can wash dishes. Wow. And he goes, if you need me, I can come in after work. It was an Hispanic man. He said, I can come in after work, and if you guys fed people, just leave the dishes there and I'll wash them.
Everyone has something to
my
give.
Goodness, everybody had something to contribute. And I was like, man, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, for us being in the media, we wanted to continue helping. Claire and I worked. During the Thomas Fire, it was 24/7 for about 3 weeks. Yeah. But we wanted to help any way we could. Mm-hmm. Not by by delivering information, of course. Delivering that information was really crucial, I think. Yeah. But definitely. Also, I kept checking with Pastor Dell on a daily basis to see if there was anything else that the church was doing, helping the community out during these natural disasters, to see where we could potentially come in as a news organization and get the word out there. And so that was just a very unique time. Claire and I both are born and raised in Santa Barbara. We had never seen anything like that before. Never. And I really hope I never have to see that again. Yeah. But it definitely was a learning experience. And I think just being part of New Life Church was just made it easier to bear the whole thing.
Yeah, especially for you guys. You guys are at the forefront of seeing things that many people don't see. That's a lot of stress. What you guys went through too. Just kind of seeing all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's what brought me back to church too, in a way, because there was a time in my life where I just wasn't going to church at all, like zero, and then just the working news, and for people that know me now, I'm working digital on the digital side, so I didn't get to go out on the field as often as I did. But for years I was a news photographer, so I would always go to these just crazy scenes. And I would just see just a lot, and so I realized that was just church was a place for me to be that would help me bear with all of this that I was witnessing, and I know some people that just quit, just basically got out of the news business because it was too. So yeah, exactly. But for me. I love the community that I serve wherever I'm at. In this case, now I'm in Los Angeles. I still love Santa Barbara, and I still deliver news where I can about Santa Barbara. But obviously, LA is a community that now I really care about, and so by staying in the news industry, it gives me a way to deliver crucial information in case anything crazy happens, especially anything big like it did in Santa Barbara.
Yeah,
I felt like maybe I was put in that position for that time. That it was. It was just a crazy feeling afterwards. Well, what about you, Claire? How did you feel
during the disaster time?
Yes.
I just felt so blessed to be able to know that New Life Church was there when we needed it, and just being able. We could go hard working, and then we can go to church on Sunday, and then there was like the prayer evenings during the fire week and whatnot, and that was just, it was helpful, and I was thankful to have been plugged into a church already. And so it's like almost, God is always looking ahead of us. He knows what's coming, and he will only give us what we can handle, and he's going to give you tools, resources, people to help you through whatever you need.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I like to say that New Life Church has one secret weapon in the worship team. That's Faith.
Oh, yeah.
Because she can sing.
She can sing, yeah.
Yeah, when did you realize that you could sing like that?
Well, my family is pretty musical. Everyone in my family is musical on both sides.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think almost everyone can sing.
Her
and
sisters
or
can sing
play
really
an
good
instrument.
Too.
So we kind of grew up, pastors' kids. We would sing little specials in church. But I never even found an interest, really. I remember being prophesied over one time when I was a young teenager that music would be a big part of my life. And I remember laughing. I'm like, really? That's not even anything I thought about. When we were, I was about 13, 14, my mom started teaching me and my sisters to sing harmony. So like I said before, I have 4 siblings. So our ages are, 32, 31, or these are the ages we're about to turn. 32, 31, me 30, 29, and then 22. Or something like that. Anyway, so we're about a year apart. Anyway, so the 3 oldest were all girls. My mom started teaching us harmony. I think I was about 12 or 13. And people just started kind of responding to it. They were like, giving us attention about it, basically. And so we started doing, we took up sign language, and we started doing signing to songs. And it wasn't even singing, but people loved it. Like, they were like, oh my gosh, you and your sisters, you're so anointed. And they would always say stuff like that. And so there was something there. So we started attending this mega church, and someone approached us we did a talent show at the youth group, and we did sign language. And someone from the worship team approached us, and they said, I feel like you guys can sing. Can you audition for the worship team? And we were like, sure. So we auditioned. We all made it. And that was where I really started getting into it. Then me and my sister started singing together a cappella. and we entered a competition. We won regionals, first place, and then we got sent on to nationals, and we won, I think, second place in nationals. And then we put out an album, and we started. Yeah, I don't want to share about.
Did it go platinum?
We're a little embarrassed about it.
They were young.
We wrote it, and my dad's very proud of it. My parents are very proud of it. They funded it, and you know, parents, they're like, think their child is, So we started doing that. We would sing at churches, and we would sell our album. Then I really when I went to CFNI is when I kind of was on my own. I auditioned for the first time by myself to get into a band, a worship team. And I made it, and it was for Youth for the Nations, where I later became the worship director for them.
Wow. And they also came out with a EP.
We also came out with an album them. And that was really when I started attending Christ for the Nations and started singing at YFN. That's really when my voice came out, and I was able to find my voice as a worship leader, as a vocalist. That's really where it fell into place for me.
Awesome. We're so happy it was found.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love it.
I just want to make a note that I fell in love with Faith before I found out she can sing.
He did. He had never heard me sing.
I didn't even know.
Yeah.
Special bonus.
Yeah. It's true love.
That's true love.
Okay, so let's actually talk a little bit more about family. Because I have a sense that family for you is important.
Yes.
Very important.
It is.
Now you have 2 little ones.
Yeah.
And how's that experience been? You went from being just the 2 of you to all of a sudden now having two little ones to watch out for. So how's that experience been like for you 2? It
absolutely changes your life in every way.
Yeah, now we're broke.
No,
no. Kids are.
Now we're rich. With children.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a dad, Oscar. Even when I was a little kid and didn't know what was best for me, but I've always wanted to be a dad, and I love being a dad. It's fun. Yeah, it's hard work, and it's everything that people say, the good and the bad, and but I enjoy it. There's a verse in Scripture. I don't remember where it is, but it's basically like children are like arrows in a quiver. And so it's like this idea that, man, it's this thing to be proud of, like this, they're going to be your legacy. I love the idea of that. Hey, it doesn't end with me. Like there's others that are going to go after me, but definitely adjusting, to 2 kids or our first one. And then our second one has been a journey, especially working in church.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, it's there are highs and low lows.
High highs and low lows.
I always say that having like toddlers or like kids is like the greatest test of marriage, because it's like no longer just romance about you 2. Like we have
there's still
kids
romance.
Okay, but it's like
Obviously,
poopy diapers and spit up and throw up and stuff that comes with kids. You always have kids in your bed, blah blah blah. I would say after we had Zeal, we were in baby heaven. It was bliss for us. When he turned about 1, I just was hit with like depression, and I don't even know if it was baby related. I think part of it was I was grieving our old life, because it's kind of like you just will never get it back. Even if he goes to stay with grandma or whoever, you are constantly thinking about them. Like it will never be the same. And I had to grieve that, and just let go of our old life. And I guess I had a lot of like personal issues to work out, because it tests your patience. Like it pulls out all the things that you need to work on are like you're confronted with. I feel like when you have kids, it just like pulls it out of you. And I just was faced with, I'm like, I am the most impatient person I've ever met. Like why am I so angry? Like why do little people affect me so much, And so I really like had to, I finally told Fernando, I'm like, I think I'm depressed.
Yeah.
I have no drive. All I want to do is sleep. Like, I want to be away from him constantly. Like, I just want to get away from him.
Yeah.
I love him, but I want to get away. And so that moment, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say on that note, like, for Faith to acknowledge that was big. Even for me, you know, I've always known Faith as to be like the stronger one of us two. I'm really emotional myself. And for Faith to come to that place where she actually kind of was honest and transparent, it's like, hey, I'm dealing with depression.
Yeah. I said,
it just
I
kind of
need
like
help.
hit me. And, you know, unfortunately, I'm naturally the kind of person that wants to fix people, which you don't do when that happens. Like, you don't say, well, let me give you some advice. You don't do that. You just listen. And I think I remember just her sharing that with me and me just crying with her, like, hey, let's push through this and let's figure this out together.
Yeah.
But that was
So
tough.
we ended up going, I told him that in November of 2017. And, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And in December, we went to see, what is it, a counselor?
It's like an intensive, our church, part of why we love New Life Again. Our church sends all of the staff at least once a year to counselors, to a counselor. It's this great ministry that the denomination puts in LA. It's right there next to Echo Park. And it's a place for couples to go and get counseling. You get one-on-one and couple counseling.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an
So we
intensive 2-day thing.
Yeah, we did 18 hours in 2 days of
wow.
like straight like counseling, and it changed my life. Like, it radically changed my life, because I talked through things that I had never talked through before in my life, and that was a huge turning point for me. I just felt like more free than I had ever felt in my life. I was feeling joy and hope.
It's such a good conversation. I was sucked in. It's okay. It's not a big deal.
Well, because
You can edit this later.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was actually gonna ask for everybody that's listening out there that is a young parent or thinking about having kids, what would be your like best suggestions for them to handle that type of situation?
With what in particular?
With kids, with having kids. I know you mentioned some today, going to go see a counselor, especially if you're part of a church like Foursquare. But
for any new parent,
for anybody out there that may not even necessarily go to church, or be part of a church, just new parents or people thinking about becoming parents, what would be some good pointers, if you will, based on the experience you have as parents yourselves, young parents yourselves?
I have two things in mind that really helped me personally. The first one is when we visited our pediatrician. You know, we're new parents with Zeal. We're like, can he do this? Can he do that? Can we feed him this? Can we feed him that? And this experienced doctor, he's like 30 years in as a pediatrician. He's seen it all, right? He's heard it all and all this stuff. Very highly recommended. And this man basically just told us, relax. Just relax. Let your mom and dad instinct just take over. We were created to multiply. And, you know, just you'll know. Like, obviously he gave us tips and pointers on a lot of stuff. But what really calmed me was like this idea of, he would say to us, take him out. Go to the park. Go to the ocean. Let him touch sand. Let him hear the birds. Let him get some sun. If he eats something off the ground, just dust it off. Like he'll be fine. Like, that kind of like thought. I'm like, right. Okay. Because as new parents, you can freak out, especially with the internet now. Like, you look up everything. Everybody has something to say. Everybody has some parenting advice. Everybody has, and you feel like you're not doing a good job. And then for this man to tell us, just relax, just let your natural mom and dad instinct take over. That was such a huge win for me. That's one. The second one would be just be a part of a community. And I'm not just talking about a faith community. For us, in the context of us, it's our faith community. But if you don't go to church, be a part of a community. That old saying, it takes a village to raise a kid. Man, I think that's true. If you're close with family, if you're not close with family, find a community of some sort. And stick with it, whether it's a mom group or a dad group or a toddler group, whatever it is, church, school, be surrounded by other people who go through the same things as you, and you're going to find out, hey, you're not the only one. And there's just something about knowing that you're not the only one that really brings a lot of perspective and even relieves stress. You know, it's like, oh, okay, so I'm not the only parent that's going crazy over this. No. So I would say, you know, just let your natural mom and dad instincts take over and get plugged into some sort of community.
If you're thinking about having kids, you know, people always say travel before, and it's true. Just get out, whatever.
Not that
like
you can't travel with kids, because you can. It's just a little bit more difficult.
It's a lot more work. So I would say do the fun things, like the things that just will be a little bit more difficult with kids. Do that, and everyone has their own timeline. You know, like for some people, like we have friends who they just had their first baby at 23 years old, pretty young. Mm-hmm. But for them, it's what they want to do. They really have no desire to travel the world. And then for other people, they want to wait till late 30s. We have another friend
too. Yeah.
who had their first baby at 37,
Mm-hmm.
I think, 37, 38.
Yeah, and they're happy, and they're loving it.
It's perfect for them, and they have traveled the world. And so I think you know what's right for you, but definitely if you have some stuff on your bucket list, cross it off, and then really think through your decision, and then go for it.
Yeah. And it's not the end of it, but
no, it's not.
Right.
It's a new adventure.
Enjoy your partner. Enjoy yourselves.
And there's seasons. There's seasons too. Because I know right now, sometimes it feels a little bit lonely for me because I'm at home, and I am not involved in a lot of things right now. And so I just keep reminding myself, this is just a season. Mm-hmm. This is just a season. When the kids get older, then I'm on a new adventure for my life. You know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, everyone has a different timeline.
Yeah. No. Feeling that when we got Sandy here,
it's a responsibility.
Yeah, we can't leave for long periods of time, mm-hmm. and we somebody needs to feed him. We have to find care. I mean, it's
exactly.
It's a crazy thing, but I guess it's good practice. They say pets are good practice.
It is.
So we survived with Sandy, and we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. Yeah, earlier in April. Thank you. And it just flew by.
It did.
Yeah. And then now with our work schedules, the dog here is not alone for like more than 2.5 hours. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah, but the difference with dogs is they stay the same. Kids at least grow up and then they can move on.
And kids can talk to you.
And
tell you what they want.
Yeah, exactly. And so just before we wrap up this podcast, I actually like to end the show with biggest pet peeves. So we'll
that's good.
We'll start with Faith, and then we'll go to Fernando. And
I need time to think.
What categories? Because I have a lot of them. No,
no, you do have a lot of pet peeves.
It can be if you have one like pet peeve that stands out among the rest, mm-hmm. go with that. But it can be multiple ones. What are your biggest pet peeves?
Mine are weird. Yeah, I'll tell you one. It's just This is silly. If you're listening again, you might relate. You might not. When people don't like say good morning or hello,
they don't greet you.
Or there's no greeting. Again, I like to say that I grew up in the South. So like even through text, like if you sent me a text and you say good morning, hello, how are you, and then you say what you need or what you want to tell me or whatever, I'm good to go. But for some reason, I have a pet peeve that people just go straight to like, are you coming at 7? You know what I do? I always respond, hello, so-and-so. How are you? Yes. And I do it on purpose. I'm kind of like, sometimes I feel like I'm a little too mean, but I wish it would stick. But that's one of my pet peeves.
I'm going to go check my text messages from you right now.
When I was saying that, I was thinking, I was like, no, not you.
Don't worry, it's me, right? It's me.
Oh, man. Okay, the only pet peeves I can think about are like spouse related.
Oh,
I think it's time to wrap up.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you one that Fernando does that gets on my nerves.
Oh, it's that kind. All right, I got some.
He brushes his teeth everywhere but the bathroom, and so
A traveling
I find his toothbrush in random places, and he also takes the toothpaste with him. So I'm like trying to find. I'm like, I already know. I have to go search through the house.
But you know it's in the
for
same
the
place
toothpaste.
every time.
No, it's not.
Kinda.
Sometimes it's up on the counter. Sometimes it's in the drawer. Sometimes it's at the end of the hall. Usually it's in the kitchen somewhere around the sink. I'm like,
I think.
why?
I think maybe claustrophobic in the restroom. Maybe I don't know. It's just
That's
a habit.
ridiculous.
This is fun. How about you guys?
Well, oh man,
Come on, one pet peeve.
Okay, so I got so many, but since we're in the theme of spousal pet
Are we
peeves,
in that theme?
yeah,
I think we just
I'm
got
making
sucked
it.
into
I'm
this.
making it.
Now it's become this now.
Then I would say okay, so I love shaving, and I shave the traditional way, like you know, your grandpa shaved 40 years ago or something, safety razor, and you have to make your own lather and everything. So it's like a spa day for me when I do it usually, and I like to enjoy myself. So then when Claire comes and just starts knocking to say whatever, like
I love you.
yeah, it's like get out, don't disrupt me. No, I'm shaving. Well, I now give her an alert when it's shave day. So I wake up.
Wow, there's an alert for shave day. I like this. Wow.
Yeah. I wake up and I'm going.
Do you use another restroom? Because
Well-
I imagine you overtake the area.
Well, I do, yes, but we have two restrooms here. But Claire refuses to use the other restroom.
I think you refuse to use the other restroom.
We have the number of the counselor if you guys want.
But it's come to a point now where we wake
This
up.
is interesting.
Yeah, we wake up and she says she turns to me and asks me, "Wait, is today shave day?" And I say, "Yeah, it's shave day." But she also knows that if it's shave day, I'm most likely gonna be in the bathroom for a while. But anyway, like just getting disturbed by that, I would say that's one of the pet peeves. Another one that I mentioned in like a previous podcast actually was when you're driving and the other person goes into your lane without turning the turn signal.
Right. Yeah.
That just annoys me.
That kills me.
Yeah. What about you, Claire?
Come on, Claire. Bring it out.
Well, I'm gonna for now keep it off the marriage topic and just go back to like the greeting, something similar. When people say hi, how are you, and they keep walking.
Oh, right.
It's like if you're gonna ask me hi, how am I? Stop and let me answer.
Let me answer. Yeah.
Like if you're gonna take that time to say that, because I won't tell you my life story, my answer. I'll just say I'm great, and I'll ask how are you doing too.
Yeah.
And so I just wish people
Now
would
I'm
just
thinking
stop
like
and look at you.
I won't do it
You
again.
don't
I promise.
do that. You don't do that. I might.
I
do
could. Yeah. No, I get it though. It is frustrating. That would drive me nuts.
I don't like when people interrupt. If someone like
That's crazy,
talking and interrupting. Not like if we're all excited, fine. But if someone is constantly an interrupter, like talking over the other person,
Well, I'll tell you a good one.
Okay.
are you trying to interrupt me?
No, but I really do have a good
I
one.
I also do
When
have a
you're
good one.
talking to someone and they're not looking at you. Like that, I don't know if it's just the way that I was brought up, but like if you're talking to someone and there's no eye contact, or at least normal eye contact. I don't want you staring at me the whole time. But like, oh my goodness, it drives me crazy if I'm talking to you and you're like over there looking at a dog.
So it's been really
Or a
hard
cat.
for him having kids because I like have to tend to
It
them,
drives
and
me
I'm like I'm
crazy.
listening, but I have to like.
I'll pause.
Yeah, that's what he says. He says, "I'll wait."
I'll wait.
I'm like, okay.
I'm not trying to be mean. I just can't do it.
No, but he will leave the room while I'm talking. He's like, I'm listening. I'm like, you're literally,
That's true.
you can't
That
even
is
hear
true.
me.
That's true.
You're literally across the house.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm listening.
Double standard, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, I'm totally the opposite. Like I don't. I have to tell Claire. All right. Just pause. Hold on. I'm sending this text out real quick. Hold on. I'm sure it probably annoys.
Can you talk? Can you have a conversation with someone and text someone else at the same time?
No.
Some people do that. Some people do that. I'm like, I'll wait.
They're
Send you
not.
text and then
They're not fully engaged in either. There's no way.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. Well, Pastor Fernando Morales and his lovely wife, the director of the worship team. Where's the raise? I don't know. We'll see. Both joining me and my wife Claire here on this podcast, Hangry Mexican. Thank you for being here. Thank you for this.
No,
episode.
thank you.
much.
Thank you.
And thank you for
inviting
the
us.
apple pie.
Yeah,
So
Claire, the apple
actually,
pie was
yeah, how
bomb.
was it?
It was
Yeah.
amazing.
okay, so I normally don't eat apple pie. I just have never have. That was literally the best apple pie ever, and I want the recipe. It was so good.
Literally just 3 ingredients. That's it.
Wait, what were they?
Just apple pie filling,
Yeah.
spice cake mix, and then 2 sticks of butter.
No wonder.
Throw it in the slow cooker and just let it all melt together.
Wow.
Whoa.
Faith.
It was delicious.
Keto.
I'm definitely. We're not doing so good lately with keto.
We're destroying keto with that apple pie.
It was so good.
Oh,
Thank you
I'm
for
glad you
inviting
liked
us.
it.
yeah, of course. Oh, that was a wonderful interview, and I think we could have gone for hours and hours just talking. But of course, all things must come to an end, and it was getting a little late. So I just want to thank both Pastor Fernando Morales and his wife, Faith Morales, who is the worship group director at New Life Church in Santa Barbara. They were amazing, and I definitely want to have them back on the show at some point. Now, if you love this podcast and you like this episode, please subscribe and rate the podcast. We're also available wherever you get your podcast. Definitely tell your friends and your family about it. And if you have any questions or comments, email them to hangrymexicanpodcast @gmail.com. Again, that's hangry, hangry Mexican podcast @gmail.com. I would love to read some of your comments and questions in the next show. All right. Thanks, everybody. And until next time, good night and good luck.